the show begin. Next generation for the win. We're going all in. All together now, let's begin. Let the show begin.
We've got 25 minutes. We're going to talk a lot about hospitality brands and demographic trends, content, strategies happening across the regions. But I couldn't help, after we spent some time together yesterday, to want to start this off with some personal stories. It's one of the things, whenever I come out to the region here, I'm struck by just the global stories of the people that I meet. I was just saying in San Francisco, I meet people who, they'll say, oh, I grew up in Denver, I went to school in Nebraska, now I live in San Francisco. That's about the extent of it. And then I meet these guys. And so I'd love to have you start with your story and bring us to the present. Victoria.
Sure, thanks Chris, thanks for having me here today as well. So 27 years in the hospitality and tourism industry. On continent number 4 now. I've just moved to Dubai from 20 years in Southeast Asia and before that in the UK. So I started my career in the UK as a tour operator, way back in the day, showing my age of 27 years in the industry, and how that industry evolved from traditional tour operating in Southeast Asia, Pacific, Africa, and then moved into luxury hotels, moving into Bangkok, and I lived in Bangkok for 15 years, looking after luxury hotels, food and beverage, and the journey took me to Accor, where I looked after the top-line commercial for our luxury brands in Southeast Asia. And during COVID, I moved to Singapore to look after communications and brand. And now, in the last year, I've taken over this role in Dubai, looking after Turkey to the Pacific with a wonderful team. And I head up brand, marketing, loyalty, and partnerships for our region.
In Turkey, that's a very unusual sort of section of the world.
We divide it really where Asia begins. So Asia, Middle East, Africa, excluding China. China is its own entity.
Love it. Great story. John.
Lots of places for you to hide.
Yeah, true.
Yeah.
And likewise.
Yeah. I've been with Marriott for 28 years, and my career with Marriott started in Los Angeles, and I was responsible for handling the entertainment division for Marriott, and so I was calling on all the Hollywood studios, Walt Disney, Warner Brothers, Universal. And my job at the time, in the mid to late 90s, was to locate film crews that were filming around the world and try and get the cast and crews in the hotels, as well as Marriott in the movies with regards to product placement opportunities.
By the way, is that like the coolest job in the world in your late 20s?
Yeah, honestly, I swore I was never going to leave that job. I like living the life. And then I met this young lady. I was driving up from a golf tournament with Samuel Jackson after filming a movie called Deep Blue Sea about an electronic shark. And she had this idea that she wanted to live overseas. And me being in love said, you know what? If you're going overseas, I'm going overseas. And I tried to land in a job in London where she wanted to go, and I didn't have any luck. So Marriott asked if I would put my name in the hat for other opportunities. I said, sure. And 3 weeks later, it was late on a Friday afternoon. My phone was blinking. This is back in the day when you had to press the button to hear your messages. And my boss at the time said, John, there's this really cool opportunity. You'll be a pioneer. You're opening 2 hotels in a country where we have no hotels. And I'm listening. And then it comes out. She says, India. And I'm like, India? Yeah. And so I called my wife, played the voicemail for her, and she said, let's do it. After a 3-minute conversation, 3 weeks later, I landed in India. So I kind of went from Hollywood to Bollywood.
I love it.
And 7 years in India, I moved to Hong Kong, and I had a variety of roles there as well, looking at the distribution, sales, and marketing for much of the region. And I've been in the CSMO now for the last 12, 15 months, and loving every moment of it. But I've been in the region for 25 years in November.
Amazing. And this is such an explosive region for your 2 brand collections. And I mean, both companies have an enormous portfolio of brands. Marriott, 35+ brands across the world, now operating not just hotels, but private accommodations, cruise, and other. Accor, same thing. Many different brands. Talk a little bit about your brand footprint in the region first, just to sort of level set. How is Accor managing brand in this region?
Well, we have a multi-approach. It really depends on, conversion is a huge piece because of established destinations like the Pacific, where in the Pacific we really look at conversion more than new builds, where in this part of the world is very much a new build. The Middle East is a new build, Africa's a new build, and conversions. Footprint-wise, we really want to grow the premium sector. So we are the number one in economy and mid-scale. A large portfolio of luxury in the Raffles, Sofitels, and Fairmont, and galleries within the Asia portfolio. But we really want to segment that premium segment, which is our Pullman, our Mövenpick, and our Swiss Hotel product. We see a lot of demand there, so that's really a driver for us, but also retaining and growing the brands. But also within Asia, we have a collection of brands like The Handwritten, which is this boutique, unique, localized brand. Our strategy in Japan, for example, we've just taken over 23 hotels and we've made them Mercure family, so Grand Mercure and Mercure, which is deeply rooted in that local heritage, food and beverage experiences, and that really leads to where our new customers are coming from. So it's a very multi-approach depending on the territory of our brand expansion.
And it's interesting for those of you who aren't familiar with the hospitality industry, conversion essentially means taking an existing hotel that's either operating as an independent or maybe operating as another flag, AKA a Marriott, and convincing them to convert to an Accor flag. And that's a huge segment of growth for both companies. And I imagine that's also the case for Marriott. You're stealing from Accor, you're grabbing from the independents.
We're trying.
Doing the best you can.
Yeah, we're trying. No, the conversion opportunity, it really took shape probably about 5 or 6 years ago, Chris.
Yeah.
And where it started off with a couple conversions a year out of all the deals that our development team signed. Now it represents, I think we finished last year with 30% of our hotels were conversions, new deals that were signed. And we think that number will be a little bit higher this year as well. So it's a very big part of our business.
We have the iconic brands.
Yeah.
So those are the iconic footprint, exactly the same as you do. But then also there's these conversion brands. So they're softer brands where we can be more nimble, more agile with our owners to be able to drive.
Is that code for not requiring the real estate investor to put in more money?
No, it's the requirement where if we have what we call is an instant noodle, for example. So it's a late signing that we have a period of time where we have the performance, the PIP that we enforce, and that is really to bring it into the brand. But having a conversion brand that lends itself more to that, whereas an iconic brand is quite rigid in terms of the brand performance, the brand implementation. And
I'm just going to stay on this for a little bit longer, and then we'll move into some of the interesting demographics and content challenges in the region. But you know, in the U.S., I think somewhere around 78 to 82, 83% of hotels are flag affiliated in some way. In Europe, it's almost the exact opposite, deep fragmentation. I think there's a lot of fragmentation out in this part of the world too. Do you guys believe with the platforms you're building and some of your other big brand competitors that the world is just generally heading for a place where there's going to be more concentration and less fragmentation? Is it no longer feasible to run an independent hotel?
I think there's place for both. It really depends on an independent hotel, what your distribution platform looks like and your loyalty offering. Because
that's kind of the
scale.
key, right? That's the loyalty is the platform.
Precisely.
The platform is no doubt the key. I mean, I think as Marriott's platform has evolved and our distribution has evolved over the years, we're very attractive to independents and small hotel groups to join the system to land on our platform. You know, it is easily searchable. Consumers can find a wide range of products. We, as Chris, as you said, we've got over 35 brands currently today. In the region, we have 24 brands in 22 countries. And over 9,000 hotels. I look at 10 years ago, we had exactly half that amount, 18 brands, 4,000 hotels. But more and more hotels are coming our way through the conversion, and the big pull on that is our distribution and our sales organization.
Because, I mean, in the end of the day, again, another really interesting thing about the hotel business is it really is at its core a real estate business.
Yeah.
Right, and so the brands have to be able to say to a real estate owner or an investor that by being part of my platform, although I'm going to charge you, right, your net operating income in the end of the day is going to improve.
Absolutely.
And that comes from channel shift. That comes from just being better at sourcing customers.
The cost of sale on Marriott's platform would be less to the owner than if they ran it themselves.
Because of the dependence on the OTAs.
Dependence on
for volume.
OTAs in just general reach overall, but absolutely.
And does Accor have that same power in the market?
Oh, definitely. We're the market leader in this part of the world.
And those shoes don't lie, girl.
Exactly. But at Accor, we have an omni-channel approach, really. That's, we work with multi-segmentation. Of course, direct is our preferred option. But in terms of your original question about, is there a place for a local hotel chain? I think there certainly is, but their point of differentiation has to be so much bigger now because we have scale. We have 40 brands. So if you're looking from a cost-effective solution all the way up to this luxury, what we offer is reliability, standards, service expectation, and a great breakfast and a great night's sleep. In the premium and luxury space, we dial that up on service, F&B experiences, and so forth.
And I would just add, this would be the same for Accor as well, as our loyalty programs are quite strong. Again, 10 years ago, we had 50 million members that are part of Marriott Bonvoy. Today, we're well over 210 million members. And it's very attractive to an owner to have access to that kind of membership. And so when they oftentimes plug into our system, they'll see an immediate jump in reservations coming directly to them, as well as coming through our platform or other OTAs.
But part of your two challenge, and this is where it gets interesting, right, is, you have this sort of legacy history of the power of brand and platform, driving performance, driving traffic, and now we're starting to decouple from the young traveler. This new Gen Z traveler isn't behaving the same way as the old market, right? And so now you've got this big aggressive strategy, these big loyalty programs, and suddenly a traveler now that's totally different and looking at life in a very, very different way. So it's disruptive to your loyalty programs, it's disruptive to your marketing. So first let's start with Accor, because you've got a very well-developed content strategy here. So take a little bit of time and dive into that.
Certainly. I think we realized that we need to change our approach. The Gen Z and millennials are not booking in the traditional ways. They're not traveling in the same way. They don't travel for the same motivations. So by creating poignant content is absolutely essential. We have to evolve our business at the end of the day to be able to cater to what is now probably the largest influencer segment in our travel industry and the future of where all our brands sit, be it economy or luxury. So we undertook about 18 months ago, and I see my VP of marketing is in the room, a huge labor of our love. We've undertaken a different type of content project. Instead of doing the traditional video and photography of a hotel, it's very much lifestyle orientated, but it speaks to the channels that these millennials and Gen Z are looking for: TikTok, Insta, short and authentic, linked in with influencer strategies. And influencer power in certain markets is absolutely instrumental. But what we've done is we've done localization. So on a global level, we're driving content to speak into the right customer at the right time in its right source. But what we've done in this level is we've become super localized because we have 9 unique languages in the territory that I look after, and we have 11 points of sale. So we have to be localized.
So how do you, the interesting part is that I imagine that's all about driving brand awareness, driving brand connection and affinity so that when they eventually decide to travel, they think of you first in many cases. How do you trace attribution?
So it's multiple levels. We look at destination. So we're at the top end of the funnel. We're in the dream stay state as well, where we're selling them, have you ever thought about going to Japan or Indonesia? What is your next destination? So it's destination plus brand plus experiences. And then we're linking in with what's really resonating with Gen Z and millennials is sport. So traveling specifically for events, and that's the stickiness that we're getting with our loyalty program through partnerships, through brand awareness, through our Accor Stadium in Sydney, for example. They will travel to see Taylor Swift. Today in Sydney, we have South by Southwest, which is a brand and/or experience platform.
And it's meant to create this sort of aspirational halo around the brand. And,
precisely.
And Marriott is sort of doing the same thing with your big experiences push, or do you have a similar kind of content strategy?
Well, Chris, I would play off the big experiences push. We want to put Marriott Bonvoy in a place where dreams come true. And so, with our partnership, our sponsorship with the Australian Open, F1 in Singapore, Melbourne, and Tokyo, bringing Ed Sheeran to India, or also being heavily involved with Taylor Swift, We make all of those amazing experiences available through our members platform, our Marriott Bonvoy Moments platform, where members can actually earn points and then use it on these amazing experiences. It's about people, passion, and places. And so we want to make sure that we're touching those heartstrings, because we know that that's what actually delivers loyalty. And consumers, the Gen Z and the millennials, we consider them sort of the savvy explorers, represent about 60% of the population here in Asia Pacific, or will so in the next 10 years. And they're looking for a loyalty program that meets all of their needs. They don't want one loyalty program that does one thing and another does another. They want to make sure that the program is pretty holistic in nature. We have to make our program where our points are almost treated like a currency in itself. And so,
how do you do that, given how powerful Bonvoy is now as a franchise, right? I mean, Tony even talks about it as the umbrella brand, right, over all of Marriott. So how do you then specialize elements of Bonvoy within this region that speak to the issues you just brought up, when that may not be the overriding priority of global Bonvoy? Do you have that flexibility?
No, I think that's an awesome question. And I think the umbrella description of Bonvoy is accurate. It is certainly the halo for all of our hotel brands. But our hotel brands, we will tie F1 and Mercedes and Ritz-Carlton together. That's more or less our luxury portfolio play. When we brought music to the K-pop groups to Japan, we tied it with Moxie and Aloft, which are known as our lifestyle luxury brands, but that reach a segment of the travelers which are more Gen Z and millennial in nature. So we can actually segment our sponsorships and our different sort of partnerships within the Bonvoy portfolio to the specific brands within a specific destination. So as Victoria sort of you really get into dissecting how that brand will show up in that respective country.
And that leads nicely into our approach with the app. The app is absolutely instrumental for this demographic because we can personalize.
Yes.
We can put the right content, and that's where AI, we can get to talk a little bit about AI and what we're doing there, but the application is the way that we can communicate the right message at the right time to the right customer about an event, about a sponsorship, about a new co-brand credit card that we're launching, mobility, about airline two-way earn and burn rewards. This is the ecosystem where we've got them captured, and we need to keep them engaged and keep that stickiness going. And loyalty underpins that.
And do you have the flexibility within the region that you operate to make adjustments to the Accor loyalty program so it's less transactional, so these young travelers can achieve a reward after a single stay, or do you have to play by Paris's playbook?
Oh no, we have a structure with Global where we have certain amount of, say, 4 times a year, there is a global loyalty campaign on our ICP, our integrated marketing plan, but we very much do loyalty activations on individual markets and or for a region. So we would do a ×4 dining experience offer, we would do our best price guarantee member rate offer push, destination, not always tactically driven, but a lot also about the visibility. But yes, we have autonomy in the region to do what we feel is right for that. That's the beauty about Accor. It allows us to do our localization in our point of sale.
It's interesting, and somewhat counterintuitive. I think McKinsey did a big travel report recently where the affiliation of brand and loyalty program in making, especially luxury travel decisions for Gen Z, was a very relevant data point, which I think a lot of us have thought, oh, Gen Z isn't going to care about loyalty. They're not going to sign up to Bonvoy. They're not going to sign up to Accor. That's not actually turning out to be the case.
They're highly savvy.
But to hook them, you got to give them a reward fast.
Yeah, they want instant rewards.
Right.
And they want everyday rewards. So again, like you and Marriott,
Starbucks coffee.
Instant gratification.
Instant gratification. And points that they can use. It's not just a points game, but points they can use for everyday spend.
Yeah.
Such as we've started an everyday rewards program in Australia with Woolworths, where you buy your groceries and you can redeem your points structure.
So you brought up AI, and I know you guys are in brand development and marketing and loyalty, and a lot of the talk about AI has been on the side of driving efficiency into operations, which makes sense. Improving guest service when on property, that makes sense. How is it beginning to show up in the way you think about your content strategies and the way you think about marketing? Is it giving you more scale, more power, more creativity, all the above?
I think all the above. But at the end of the day, we are humans, and humans want human connection. And we're in the hospitality industry.
So no AI TikTok bullshit?
I think at this point, in this junction, it's got a value if we use it correctly and we embrace it correctly. And I think exactly what you said, being more efficient, be able to profile, industrializing, those are all great things. Pre-arrival profiling and suggestions, guest preferencing. But when it comes to that actual personal touch and that human to human, I still believe there's a place in our hotels for our teams to be able to animate that in operations.
You know what I would say?
You saw it. That was Marriott and Accor fist bumping.
Yeah, exactly.
That's kind of like Biden and MBS fist bumping, right? Same thing.
You know, what I would say is on the Marriott side is that, you know, I'm not going to repeat everything Victoria just said, because we do follow a bit of a similar playbook here, but I can talk about the approach with Marriott. We have an innovation lab at our headquarters in Bethesda. Within that, we have an AI incubator as well, where we do a lot of testing and learning. What we're trying to do is make sure that we take a very thoughtful approach to our business. So whatever we decide we're going to lean into after testing and learning, that it's scalable and that we can do it around the world. So content is an area, Chris, that you just touched on in your opening part of that question that we're heavily focused on. And Victoria touched on what can we do to make associates' jobs easier so they can spend more time interacting with a guest at the front desk opposed to looking up all of their profile information. It should naturally come up in a very easy way for that associate to address the customer and hopefully make that first experience special.
And I assume that personalization will first show up within the loyalty envelope, because that's where you have the data.
Definitely, and it takes that pain point away from us. Yeah. All we do is beat our hotels over the head, recruit at the front desk, but they've got so many KPIs to handle. So AI could be a solution to our recruitment value or articulating the value proposition of our customer loyalty programs as well.
So as we go down this path of AI and personalization and these new sort of angles on loyalty, we have to remember that all of that that dreaming and aspiration is built on top of a legacy tech stack that's been around for a long time, right? And both of your companies have been built by acquisitions, and so you've got legacy tech stack on legacy tech stack on legacy tech stack. Now Marriott is spending a few $1 billion cleaning that up, and that ought to make, hopefully, a little bit of a difference. But how do you sidestep that? I know at Accor, you guys are famously sort of independent in terms of your tech stacks by brand or by region or so forth. How are you then navigating on the marketing and brand side, given that challenge of the legacy tech stack and all that technical debt?
It's changed a lot over the last couple of years, and we have, as Marriott does. In Paris, we have a company called, or a part of our division called the Digital Factory, and the Digital Factory is doing exactly that, making the alignments, platform synergies, so that we can communicate that, being more effective across our channels.
So you're able to basically kind of, I mean, in the end of the day, you sort of have to live above that tech stack, but then at some point you have to drive down to the actual person who's checking somebody in on your PMS system.
Exactly.
The instruction to deliver a personalized whatever it may be, which is, I think that's going to be a really interesting challenge that'll be around for the next several years, certainly. So we have a few minutes left, and I want to talk a little bit about your perspective on 2025. I know that both companies have had just phenomenal years in 2024 in terms of RevPAR index. That's revenue per available room night for those of you who aren't in the hotel business. Let's just say that the performance has been fantastic. 2025 is sort of up in the air depending on that China outbound traveler. What's the sentiment? What are you guys are in budget season right now. I know you're sandbagging a bit, but still, are you hopeful that it's going to be a big year?
Yeah, I think 2025 is going to be a good year for us. We're coming off an unprecedented year, and China, as the interregional flows for this territory, is absolutely essential. So if China's going to move again in the anticipation that we think it is, it's going to be a phenomenal year. But regardless to that, I think there's also space, regardless to China traveling or not, there are other markets, whereas India is really a focus market for us. Outbound again in Japan, absolutely essential. What we're doing with Saudi and Saudi Arabia. But also then keeping fundamentals correct. If we work on brand performance, brand elevation, that's automatically going to improve and have a good year. getting that member engagement, driving more member loyalty. That automatically is an uplift in our revenue position anyway. So.
Very well said and well brought back around. I like that. What do you think, John? I mean, is it all about China? China comes back, we crush it. China not so much.
Well, I think if China stays as is, I think we'll have a good year. I think if China comes back like we hope it's going to be an even better year. With the slow emergence of China after COVID, we did lean into other parts of other source markets to make sure that we were, in a good position, if China didn't come back. We've got language websites now in Vietnamese, Bahasa, Thai, traditional Chinese, and we have more coming as well. We want to make sure that consumers in secondary and tertiary cities in all of these countries have an opportunity to buy us in the language that they're comfortable with. So we will not rely on just one country, even though that is a very big and important country.
And it's also interesting because both of your companies have a pretty big brand footprint in China.
Yes.
And China is expected by 2030 to be the largest domestic travel market in the world, bigger than the United States. And so even though China outbound is still recovering of sorts, the brand experience in domestic travel is very strong. And what we've seen is as China has opened, because of that brand affiliation in domestic travel, they're looking for your brands when they're coming out, right? So the leverage in confidence in China must be very, very high.
Yeah, the Chinese traveler, they're very familiar with our brands. And so when
they're signing up to your loyalty program too? They're signing up to Bonvoy in China?
Yeah, we've got 25 to 30 million members in China alone. They're part of our Bonvoy program. So we've got good reach in China and growing every day.
And same with Accor?
Absolutely, and we have a paid subscription loyalty program as well in Asia Pacific, and so very important that they're actually paying to be part of our loyalty program too.
Terrific.
Benefiting.
Well, I hope it's a great year for you guys, and I really
Thanks,
enjoy the conversation. More to come. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
They're ready now. Let the show begin. Next generation for the win. We're going all in. Take center stage now. Let's begin. Let the show